Chapter 61. Let's do this for now. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Blood Sword Reunited. Buzz. At that moment, 3 blood-colored sword chi swept out and merged in the void, forming a larger sword column, flashing blood-colored light, filled with sharp breath, and shot directly towards Yang Tianhuan. Blood Sword Reunited. Are you from the Blood Sword sect? Seeing this, Yang Tianhuan's face changed drastically, and his mood exploded. He never thought that this girl would be a member of the Blood Sword sect. But at this time, it was too late. Shua. Yang Tianhuan's body was split in half by this blood-colored sword column on the spot, and blood and flesh flew everywhere. Wait a minute. Senior sister, let's talk it over. I also. Seeing this, Zhou Yufei's face changed drastically, and he shouted hurriedly. He wanted to explain to Changyu that the Zhou family he belonged to was a subsidiary force of the Blood Sword sect. However, Changyu said impatiently, "Who is your senior sister? Am I that old? Go to hell." After the words fell, Changyu once again used the blood sword return to oneness and killed Zhou Yufei. The 2 elders and 2 direct sons of the Yang and Zhou families were killed, so that the remaining warriors of the 2 families were demoralized and could not compete at all. In the end, they all died. Bang! At this time, the secret object that was shaking violently in the void finally broke free from the light net and was ready to escape, but Bai Fei had already been staring at the movement of this thing, so, at the moment it broke free, Bai Fei flashed, raised his palm, circulated his spiritual energy, and wrapped it up to prevent it from escaping. The secret object struggled frantically, trying to escape from Bai Fei's palm, but no matter how it struggled, it was useless. In the end, it could only compromise. Seeing this, Bai Fei smiled slightly. At this time, Xiao Zhan and his team had already dealt with the remaining warriors from the Yang and Zhou families, and they all gathered around Bai Fei. The way they looked at Bai Fei had obviously changed. It was because the strength Bai Fei showed was too terrifying. Killing a Dan Yuan realm master with 1 punch. Killing a Dan Yuan realm master with 1 sword. This kind of strength doesn't look like something a martial artist in the body refining realm can do, but no matter how you look at it, you can clearly feel that Bai Fei's realm is indeed in the body refining realm. It is precisely because of this that they feel it is incredible. When they left the secret place began to shake violently because it lost the secret things, and finally collapsed inch by inch and disappeared. Xiao Zhan smiled at Bai Fei and said, Bai Fei, every time I see you, you always bring me more surprises." Bai Fei just smiled and said, "It's just good luck." Hee, this is not just good luck. Xiao Zhan shook his head. "Since the matter here is over, I won't stay. I have other things to deal with. If you have a chance, remember to come to Muyun City to find me." "If you have a chance, definitely." Bai Fei nodded to Xiao Zhan and said. After hearing this, Xiao Zhan first glanced at Changyu not far away, and then whispered, "Is that woman your senior sister?" When Bai Fei heard this, he was stunned at first, but soon understood what Xiao Zhan meant by what he just said. After all, Changyu just used the martial arts of the Blood Sword sect, and Bai Fei had exposed his identity before. So Xiao Zhan mistakenly thought that Changyu was a disciple of the Sword Pavilion of the Blood Sword sect like himself. Bai Fei did not deny or confirm, but smiled slightly and said, "Please keep it secret, Brother Xiao." "Don't worry, I will keep it secret, but this woman's personality is not good, she is not suitable for you." Xiao Zhan nodded and commented immediately. Bai Fei heard this and said with a smile, "Brother Xiao, my relationship with her is not what you think." I understand. Xiao Zhan nodded to Bai Fei meaningfully, then patted his shoulder and parted with him. Bai Fei was helpless, thinking that it was really not what you imagined. However, Bai Fei did not say much. Anyway, he and Changyu were just casual acquaintances. If it were not for the task items he needed on her, he would not bother to pay attention to her. After sending Xiao Zhan away, Bai Fei turned around and returned to Changyu. Changyu said lightly, "Where is the thing?" Bai Fei heard this and raised his hand. A bead with a flashing light blue light was spinning rapidly in his palm. After Changyu saw it, she subconsciously reached out to grab it, but Bai Fei retracted his hand and said to her, "Where are my things?" Chang Yu couldn't help but roll her eyes when she heard this, and then took out the Tsangmu spirit crystal and threw it to Bai Fei. Here you go. Bai Fei took it and whispered to the system, submit the task, ding. Congratulations to the host for completing the 4th task. Reward 3,000 points. Current points remaining, 9,360. After hearing the system's prompt, Bai Fei breathed a sigh of relief, and then threw the hidden item in his hand to Chang Yu, saying, here you go. Chang Yu took the hidden item, and a look of surprise appeared on her pretty face. She said to Bai Fei, you really gave it to me? This is a deal between us, isn't it? Chang Yu's words made Bai Fei confused. Not bad, not bad. I didn't expect you to be so honest. Maybe we can be friends. If there is anything in the future, we can help each other. Chang Yu said with a smile. No need. This time is just a coincidence. I may not see you again in the future. I have something else to do. That's it for now. Goodbye. Bai Fei didn't bother to have anything to do with Chang Yu. So, after saying these words, Bai Fei didn't wait for Chang Yu to respond, turned around and went into the forest and disappeared. Seeing Bai Fei leave like this, Chang Yu was also slightly startled. Then, a faint smile appeared at the corners of her lips, and she murmured to herself, the young king is worthy of being the young king. It's really interesting. But, do you think you can escape from my palm like this? I will find out your true identity sooner or later. Just wait. After separating from Chang Yu, Bai Fei once again devoted himself to the system task. Chapter 62, Bloodline Exchange. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The remaining tasks were not very difficult, but they were time-consuming, but in the end, Bai Fei still completed them. After completing the last task, Bai Fei's figure turned into a stream of light and disappeared on the spot. He returned to the system space. Panel. Bai Fei said calmly and called up the system's information panel. Name, Bai Fei. Spiritual cultivation realm, 9th level of body refining realm. Body refining realm, 6th level of blood quenching realm. Soul quenching realm, 11th level of perception. Current points, 12,360. Current items, soul quenching pill times 1, blood explosion pill times 1. More than 10,000 points. Seeing this, Bai Fei couldn't help but smile, and then he opened the system mall and bought a golden pill of fortune, with 4,000 points. After buying the golden pill of fortune, he still had more than 8,000 points left, so, Bai Fei began to scan the various things in the system mall. Now he needs to improve his strength. After all, his soul-breaking light slash has been exposed, so in the next outer sect ranking battle, this soul art will definitely encounter defense. Therefore, what Bai Fei needs to do now is to work hard to improve his strength. It is no longer meaningful to improve my realm now, and even if it is really improved, it will not make much difference. Bai Fei pondered in his heart, thinking about the direction he should develop next. Bai Fei's current realm is the 9th level of the body refining realm. Even if he exchanges pills from the system now and improves his realm, it will not make much sense, because the martial arts he has mastered are basically basic martial arts. Even if his cultivation level is improved, the power of the martial arts he uses can only be improved to a certain extent. As for his strongest trump card, it is the soul-breaking light slash, but the soul-breaking light slash is a soul art, which consumes the power of the soul. So even if he improves his realm, it will not make any difference. Therefore, what he needs now is a powerful martial arts. However, a powerful martial arts requires a higher level of cultivation to practice. If the cultivation level is improved, there will be no extra points to exchange for martial arts. If the martial arts are exchanged, his current cultivation level cannot be practiced. So this is a dead end that cannot be solved. Therefore, it is definitely not possible to work hard in this aspect. If you can't work hard in this aspect, then you can only target your body and soul. However, because your soul technique soul-breaking light slash has been exposed, even if you improve your soul power, it actually doesn't have much effect. At most, you can perform the soul-breaking light slash a few more times, but if the opponent has any means of defense, it will be useless. Of course, if you practice other soul techniques, then it is also possible. The problem is, if you practice Other soul techniques, you must have soul power to support it. Originally, a soul-breaking light / consumes a lot of soul power. Where does the soul power come from to perform other soul techniques? Therefore, this aspect was ruled out by Fei. The realm of spiritual cultivation is not good, and the realm of soul tempering is not good either. Then there is only the realm of body refinement left. However, it obviously takes a long time to break the shackles of the physical body and break through to a new level. Moreover, it is obviously impossible to deal with the outer sect geniuses, especially the outer sect's first genius Lu Liwen, with just a strong physical body. After such a detailed calculation, it seems that no matter which level he improves, it seems that it is not very useful. Thinking of this, Bai Fei was stunned. This made him feel a little uncomfortable. This feeling is like he has a fortune, but because the door is locked, he can only see it but can't reach it, which is very aggrieved. This made Bai Fei feel a little helpless, so, he could only keep looking at the things in the system mall to see if there is anything that can improve himself. This is. At this time, Bai Fei suddenly saw a new category. Bloodline category. At that moment, Bai Fei clicked it in. Soon, a dazzling array of bloodline names came into Bai Fei's sight. Lingfeng bloodline, primary yellow element bloodline. After implantation, it can strengthen one's own wind attribute power, greatly increase one's own movement speed, cannot evolve, required exchange points, 100. Spirit fire bloodline, intermediate yellow element bloodline. After implantation, it can strengthen one's own fire attribute power, make one's own power. Come with powerful flame power, cannot evolve, required exchange points, 100. Ironwood bloodline. There are actually bloodlines that can be exchanged in the system mall. Seeing all this, Bai Fei's eyes widened, his face full of disbelief. Bloodline power is originally an innate power, and only after a creature is born will it have a chance to carry it, and in the later stage, it must be awakened before one's own bloodline can be activated and grow. However, these bloodlines sold by the system not only do not need to be activated, but are directly implanted into your body and awakened immediately. More importantly, there are so many varieties of bloodlines here, which means, as long as Bai Fei has the ability, he can have an unlimited number of bloodlines. This made Bai Fei's eyes brighter and he was very excited. Great! Really great! Bai Fei was very excited. Bai Fei was really envious of the power of bloodlines, whether it was Yang Ling's white tiger bloodline or Zhou Yulin's blue wolf bloodline. Although the bloodline grade was not high, it could really improve combat power. If Bai Fei had a bloodline, even if it was an ordinary yellow bloodline, he would not need to use his soul technique to fight Zhou Yulin. This made Bai Fei start to choose. Yellow bloodlines were not of any interest to Bai Fei at all. Although the number of points required was very small, the effect was also very weak, and what Bai Fei cared about was that the system's explanation of these bloodlines was that they could not evolve. Since these bloodlines could not evolve, did that mean that there were other bloodlines that could evolve? So, Bai Fei continued to choose. Sure enough, he found that there were indeed many bloodlines that could evolve. Moreover, the power was extremely great. It could be said that after it erupted, it was extremely terrifying. The problem was, in order to implant these bloodlines, a strong body must be supported. If the body did not meet the requirements, once the bloodline was implanted, the body would not be able to withstand it and would collapse on the spot. Chapter 63, Giant Elephant Trampling Mountain Bloodline. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The most basic requirement for these bloodlines that can evolve is to have a black iron body. Currently, Bai Fei's physical body is at the 6th level of blood tempering, and there is still some way to achieve the black iron body. Of course, Bai Fei can naturally use his points to exchange for some body tempering elixirs to upgrade his body to black iron body. However, Bai Fei made a rough calculation and found that if he exchanged his points for elixirs and upgraded his physical body to black iron body, then the points he had left would not be enough to exchange for the power of his bloodline. This is undoubtedly another dead end for Bai Fei. This made Bai Fei a little unwilling. Is there really no way he can break through? No, this is. At this time, Bai Fei saw a bloodline power and found that he seemed to be able to use it. Giant Elephant Mountain Bloodline, high-grade special bloodline. Implanted with this bloodline, you can gain the power of a giant elephant, and your body can be transformed into particles, so you can practice as a particle. Every particle can explode with huge power, and even more, it can breed supreme combat skills, cultivate the power of bloodline to the highest level, and conquer mountains and rivers. It's a piece of cake. The only requirement is that the dantian needs to be broken before. Points required, 5,000. Evolvable. It will take a long time for the dantian to be broken. When Bai Fei saw this note, a look of surprise appeared on his face. Unexpectedly, he felt very pleasantly surprised. The reason he was injured in the first place was because his dantian was broken. He felt that he was destined to die, and he never thought of directly awakening the system. The system not only repaired his own dantian, but also allowed him to successfully use the system to enter Shantian Cemetery, complete the mission, and give himself the possibility of becoming stronger. I have to say that this, Giant Elephant Mountain bloodline, is completely tailor-made for me. Without any hesitation, Bai Fei immediately redeemed the Giant Elephant Mountain bloodline. System, I want to redeem the Giant Elephant Mountain bloodline. Ding. 5,000 points were deducted and the Giant Elephant Mountain bloodline was successfully obtained. Current host's remaining points, 3,360. Implanting blood into the host. Boom! At that moment, Bai Fei felt an unparalleled power of blood being injected into his blood out of thin air. At that moment, Bai Fei felt a heartbreaking pain that spread to every nerve in his body. It's truly heartbreaking, not just an adjective. The bloodline power of Giant Elephant Mountain bloodline is unparalleled, and Bai Fei's own bloodline is just an ordinary bloodline, so it is natural to change between the two. Fortunately, Bai Fei's current physical body is strong enough. Otherwise, once the blood of this Giant Elephant treading mountain bloodline pours into Bai Fei's body, it may be able to tear his body into pieces. Of course, even in this state, Bai Fei felt extremely painful. However, Bai Fei relied on his strong willpower to survive. He knew very well that if he lost consciousness, the power of blood in his body would go wild, and he would really be close to death by then. After lasting for a long time, the blood power of Giant Elephant Mountain bloodline was finally completely consolidated in Bai Fei's body. When Bai Fei felt the resonance and induction between himself and the power of blood, he opened his eyes immediately. Boom! Then a terrifying aura erupted from his body, and at the same time a low roar sounded out. Behind Bai Fei, the void became even more distorted, and the shadow of a giant elephant could be vaguely seen. Call. Bai Fei exhaled gently and gathered the power of his bloodline. At the same time, he clenched his fists slightly and felt a huge change in his own strength. At that moment, Bai Fei's heart moved and he opened the information panel. Name, Bai Fei. Cultivation qualification, Young King. Natural bloodline, Giant Elephant Mountaineering bloodline. Spiritual cultivation realm, 9th level of body refining realm. Body refining realm, the 10th level of blood tempering. Soul quenching realm, the 11th level of perception. Current points, 3,360. Current items, soul quenching pill ×1, blood exploding pill ×1. The information panel has changed again, adding cultivation qualifications and natal bloodline. After the ordinary bloodline in Bai Fei's body was replaced by the Giant Elephant's Mountain bloodline, his body and body were improved, directly breaking through from the 6th level of blood quenching to the 10th level of blood quenching. This is equivalent to Bai Fei's current physical body being comparable to that of a warrior on the 10th level of the spirit gathering realm. If Bai Fei really wanted to run into Zhou Yulin from before, even if Zhou Yulin used the power of his blood, he would be able to kill him with one punch. After all, with the power of his physical body combined with his own spiritual energy, the power he can unleash is already comparable to that of warriors on the 11th and 12th levels of the spirit gathering realm. With the bloodline of this giant elephant on the mountain, I have nothing to fear from anyone in the outer sect ranking battle, not even Lu Liwen. Bai Fei's eyes were bright and full of confidence. In the following time, Bai Fei began to practice. Although it is said that one has the bloodline of the giant elephant, one must practice to fully master the bloodline of the giant elephant. In the blink of an eye, 3 days passed quietly. during these 3 days, the Blood Sword Sect's outer sect was also very lively, because the Blood Sword Sect's outer sect ranking battle is about to start, and the ranking rewards for this time have been announced. The top 30 will all be qualified to be assessed as inner sect disciples without exception, but the rewards for the top 10 this time are much richer than those of the last outer sect ranking battle, especially the first place, not only has a 3rd grade magic weapon as the last reward, but more importantly, a Lingyuan pill. Lingyuan pill is a magical medicine that breaks through the shackles of the Danyuan realm. You know, Lingyuan pill is a 4th grade pill, which is extremely difficult to refine, so basically only inner sect disciples and sword pavilion disciples are qualified to exchange and enjoy it. But this time, the first place in the outer sect ranking battle was Lingyuan pill, which naturally caused countless outer sect disciples to be ecstatic, especially those outer sect geniuses. You know, many of them have been stuck at the peak of the gathering spirit realm, or even at the great perfection for a long time, and it is difficult to break through, so Lingyuan pill is very important to them. Even if they don't need it themselves, they can trade it with the inner disciples. After all, many inner disciples also need Lingyuan pill very much. Therefore, when Bai Fei heard that the first prize of the outer sect ranking battle was actually a Lingyuan pill. Chapter 64, Outer Gate Ranking Battle. You are listening at novelfull.audio. He already knew that he had to work hard to win the first place. After all, Bai Fei has already practiced the Blood Sword 10,000 secrets to the 5th level. If he wants to take a step closer, he must become an inner disciple so that he can obtain the training techniques behind 10,000 secrets of the Blood Sword. Moreover, the energy he needs now is too huge, and Lingyuan Dan is just right for him. Soon, the day for the outer sect ranking battle will begin. On this day, Bai Fei adjusted his condition to the best and then left the room. He came to Ma Quan's room. At this time, Ma Quan was sitting cross-legged on the bed practicing, and the aura exuding from his body became thicker than before. This is the benefit brought by the golden elixir of good fortune. After Bai Fei came back last time, he gave the golden pill of good fortune to Ma Quan, which not only repaired his dantian, but also improved his physique, and his cultivation qualifications were improved to a certain extent. Ma Quan was at the 9th level of the body refining realm before his dantian was destroyed. Now he has broken through to the 12th level of the body refining realm. He is close to the great perfection state and may break through to the spirit gathering realm at any time. Feeling the energy emanating from Ma Quan, Bai Fei had a faint smile on his face and said, "Brother Ma, congratulations." That when Ma Quan heard this, he stopped practicing, he converged his spiritual energy, opened his eyes, and looked at Bai Fei, with the same smile on his face. "All this is thanks to you. If it weren't for you, I would still be a useless person now, and maybe I would have been there long ago." He has been kicked out of the Blood Sword sect. Yes, Ma Quan's heart was really filled with emotion. He really didn't expect that in just a few days, his life would experience so many ups and downs. Of course, what makes Ma Quan feel fortunate is that his original choice was not wrong. He felt that Bai Fei must not be a mediocre person, and he would definitely soar in the sky in the future, and that's the truth. It is precisely because of this that Ma Quan was able to get a blessing in disguise. Therefore, Ma Quan is grateful to Bai Fei from the bottom of his heart. "Brother Ma, don't say that. All of this is your own creation." Hearing Ma Quan's words, Bai Fei just smiled and didn't take it to heart. After all, Bai Fei himself does things very simply. You respect me a foot, I respect you a foot. If you want to bully me, I'm really sorry. You have to first consider whether you can afford the price. Ma Quan didn't say much on this topic. After all, sometimes talking doesn't have much effect. Action is the most important thing. "Are you going to participate in the outer sect ranking competition?" Ma Quan brought the topic to another topic. Bai Fei nodded and said, "Yes." "Are you confident?" Ma Quan asked. Bai Fei smiled and asked, "Brother Ma, are you asking whether I have the confidence to squeeze into the top 20, or whether I have the confidence to defeat Lu Liwen?" "Squeezing into the top 20, I don't think you have any problem, but Lu Liwen, are you sure? That guy is not someone to be trifled with. The fact that he has been able to occupy the first place in the outer ranking competition for several years is enough to prove that he is very powerful. I even suspect that he is actually able to break through to the alchemy realm, but he just doesn't want to. A solemn look appeared on Ma Quan's face, and he said to Bai Fei, according to the rules of the Blood Sword sect, as long as you break through to the 6th level of the spirit gathering realm, you are eligible to participate in the assessment of the inner disciples and do not need to participate in the ranking battle of the outer disciples. However, many outer disciples did not choose to take the assessment of inner disciples after breaking through to the 6th level of the spirit gathering realm. The main thing is the assessment of inner disciples. Although it is not difficult, once the assessment is successful, you will become an inner disciple. Once you become an inner sect disciple, you will not be able to participate in the outer sect ranking battles, and you must do inner sect tasks regularly, otherwise, you will be deprived of your disciple qualifications. But looking at outer disciples, you don't need to have such worries. Moreover, you can also rely on your own strong strength to occupy the rankings in the outer sect ranking battles and obtain frequent rewards. This is also the reason why many outer disciples did not choose to participate in the assessment of inner disciples after breaking through to the 6th level of the spirit gathering realm. After all, there is an outer sect ranking battle reward that can keep collecting wool. Why should they go to the inner sect to suffer? After all, there are also many experienced disciples among the inner disciples. If they really want to enter the inner gate, the same result will be that they will be suppressed. Of course, there is a limit here, that is, disciples above the Danyuan realm are not allowed to stay in the outer sect. This is why Lu Liwen and other outstanding talents will do their best to suppress their realm relationships. Of course, there are some outer sect geniuses who really have no way to break through. However, with these veteran disciples around, it is impossible for the remaining outer sect disciples to obtain a good ranking in the outer sect ranking competition, because the previous rankings are occupied by those outer sect geniuses. They cannot be shaken at all. This is basically the case every year. Occasionally, dark horses do appear, but those times are too few. Therefore, the outer sect ranking battle is also called the Battle of the Prodigies by many outer sect disciples. These outer sect disciples are just the runners-up. The real highlight is always on those outer sect prodigies. Bai Fei is naturally very clear about this matter. Therefore, after hearing Ma Quan's words, Bai Fei just smiled faintly, with full confidence in his eyes, and replied, "Don't worry, I will completely change the pattern of the outer sect ranking battle this time." Bai Fei's words are very arrogant, however. Ma Quan believes that Bai Fei can do it. Because he is Bai Fei. What he is best at creating is miracles. Therefore, Ma Quan nodded heavily to Bai Fei, and said with a smile, "I believe you can do it, but you still have to be careful. Here is the information about the outer sect prodigies that I have collected in the past few days. I hope it will be of some help to you." Saying this, Ma Quan took out a jade slip and handed it to Bai Fei. Bai Fei took the jade slip without any politeness, nodded to Ma Quan, and said, "Thank you, Brother Ma. This is all I can do, come on." Looking at Bai Fei, Ma Quan said with a smile, "Look, I'll get you first place." Chapter 65, Gathering. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Bai Fei answered with a smile, then turned around confidently and left. Watching Bai Fei's figure leave his sight, Ma Quan also sighed and said to himself, "I have to work harder." After leaving Ma Quan's room, Bai Fei went to Meng Yueheng's room. However, Meng Yueheng was not in the room. Bai Fei already knew that his cheap master should have gone to the 9-layered pass pagoda again. To be honest, Bai Fei had some doubts in his heart. Because he had already learned that the 9-layered pass pagoda was a supreme magic weapon, and if he wanted to have any intentions with it, it would only bring unimaginable consequences. So strictly speaking, the 9-layered pass pagoda should not need a guard elder, but such a guard elder appeared, and the Blood Sword sect also tacitly agreed to the existence of this position, which was really incredible. Bai Fei knew that there must be some unknown secrets in it. However, with his current strength, there must be no way to explore it, so he didn't think much about it. Soon, Bai Fei arrived in front of the 9-story tower. Then, he found his master Meng Yueheng. Bai Fei came to Meng Yueheng, bowed his hands, and saluted, "Master." Hearing this, Meng Yueheng slightly opened his eyes. His eyes fell on Bai Fei, looked up and down, and nodded gently. "Well, the state is adjusted well. How confident are you to deal with Lu Liwen?" Meng Yueheng asked such a sharp question. It is very obvious that he has already noticed Bai Fei's situation. Hearing Meng Yueheng's words, Bai Fei smiled faintly. 99%, after all, we have to give him a chance. You kid, you can really brag. Meng Yueheng shook his head, then waved his hand and said faintly, go, if you can't get the first place, don't come back to see me. Bai Fei heard this and immediately complained in his heart, old man, you didn't teach me anything, but you gave me a task. It's really enough. Of course, Bai Fei only dared to complain in his heart, and on the surface he still said very respectfully, I will definitely obey the master's order and beat that Lu Liwen so hard that even his parents can't recognize him. After saying this, Bai Fei turned around and left here very casually, heading to the competition venue of the outer gate ranking battle. Meng Yueheng looked at Bai Fei's figure gradually disappearing from his sight, and couldn't help but shook his head gently, and then said, this kid. I hope he won't be too arrogant and lose because of carelessness. The outer sect ranking battle was set up in the martial arts training ground halfway up the mountain. When Bai Fei came here, he saw that many outer sect disciples had gathered here. Among them, most of them were disciples in the body refining realm, and only a few were disciples in the spirit gathering realm. After all, many outer sect disciples chose to enter the inner sect after they could not shake those geniuses. They couldn't get the wool from the outer sect, so naturally there was no need to stay in the outer sect. It was better to enter the inner sect. Maybe there was still a glimmer of hope. At least in terms of status, it was much better than the outer sect. Therefore, the outer sect disciples in the spirit gathering realm who could stay here were basically the top 30 geniuses. After all, only the outer sect disciples who squeezed into the top 30 could get extra rewards. When Bai Fei appeared in the martial arts training ground, countless disciples' eyes fell on him. It must be said that at this moment, Bai Fei was really the center of attention. After all, some time ago, Bai Fei killed Zhou Yulin, who was ranked in the top 10. Everyone thought that Bai Fei would be held accountable by the top leaders of the Blood Sword sect, and even punished. What happened? Nothing happened at all. This made them feel for the first time that the gatekeeper elder behind Bai Fei might have a great background. Otherwise, why didn't even Zhou Yulin's master Jian Zhongjie dare to do it easily? You know, Jian Zhongjie is an inner sect elder. So, this made many people very envious of Bai Fei. Naturally, it was also because of this that Bai Fei became a thorn in the eyes of many people. Although they knew that Elder Meng behind Bai Fei had a great background, the outer sect ranking battle has always been based on strength. Without strength, no background is useful. But it must be said that Bai Fei is indeed a dark horse. So many people are very vigilant. After all, the scene of Bai Fei killing Zhou Yulin is still vivid in their minds. He was not surprised that he would attract so much attention. After all, he killed Zhou Yulin in front of so many people, and nothing happened, which would naturally arouse their fear. Therefore, Bai Fei did not care about these eyes. If they really want to attack him, then he doesn't care, but he has to weigh his weight. Carefully, Bai Fei found a place at random, stood still, closed his eyes and rested, waiting for the start of the outer door ranking battle. After a while, dozens of powerful auras suddenly descended on the martial arts training ground, attracting everyone's attention. Bai Fei felt these auras and opened his eyes. He thought to himself, here they come. That he looked over and saw that there were many people sitting on the chairs on the high platform that was previously empty. The people sitting on the chairs were the high-level members of the Blood Sword sect's outer sect. For example, the outer sect leader Lin Tingtao and the outer sect deputy leader Wan Zhongjie. There were also other outer sect elders. Bai Fei didn't know most of the outer sect elders, but he knew one of them, Qiu Feng. To be honest, Bai Fei felt unhappy when he saw Qiu Feng. He knew very well that this old man allowed Zhou Yulin to torture Ma Quan in order not to offend Jian Zhongjie. If it weren't for him, Bai Fei, Ma Quan would probably have been reincarnated in the underworld, so Bai Fei didn't like Qiu Feng, even if he was willing to give himself a chance to go through the 9 levels. You know, Ma Quan is still Qiu Feng's manager, but he just let Zhou Yulin torture him, which is really shameful. However, these things have passed, so he doesn't bother to care about them anymore. But if Qiu Feng dares to continue to order Ma Quan around, he doesn't mind killing Qiu Feng directly. After thinking about this, Bai Fei retracted his gaze. Chapter 66 Ranking starts. You are listening at novelfull.audio. On the high platform, Chiu Feng suddenly felt a trace of murderous intent. That trace of murderous intent locked onto him, causing his scalp to go numb instantly. When he wanted to find out where this trace of murderous intent came from, he found that the murderous intent had disappeared. No matter how Chiu Feng sensed it, he could not sense it. It was as if the murderous intent he had just felt was just an illusion. Elder Chiu Feng, what's wrong with you? That at this moment, an elder sitting next to him noticed his abnormality and asked. No, nothing. Chiu Feng came back to his senses and shook his head at him, thinking secretly in his heart, maybe I'm overthinking it. At this time, Lin Tingtao saw that many disciples had gathered in the martial arts training ground, so he stood up from his chair and coughed lightly. This dry cough was not very loud, but it could be heard by everyone present. At that moment, everyone turned their eyes to Lin Tingtao. The entire martial arts training ground also became extremely quiet. Seeing this, Lin Tingtao immediately said, Now, this sect master announces that the outer sect ranking battle is about to begin. The rules are the same as before, and it is still a ring battle. Low ranking can challenge high ranking cannot challenge low ranking, and there is no limit for the top 30. The outer sect ranking battle is a competition between fellow disciples. You are not allowed to deliberately kill each other. Those who violate the rules will be expelled from the sect. Now, the outer sect ranking battle is officially started. As the voice fell, Lin Tingtao raised his palm and waved it gently. At this moment, a ray of light shot out from his sleeves. Buzz. Above the sky, the light bloomed. The next second, a jade tablet about 3 meters in size appeared and floated in the air. On the surface of the jade tablet, there are names. And at the top, these words are engraved, Outer Sect Ranking List. That's right. This jade tablet is the Outer Sect Ranking List. Whenever the Outer Sect Ranking War begins, the Outer Sect Ranking List will also follow the world, and its purpose is to record the ranking of the current Outer Sect disciples after the competition. Of course, not everyone can enter the Outer Sect Ranking List, because there are only 100 places on it. There are thousands of Outer Sect disciples, and only 100 are qualified to enter the Outer Sect Ranking List. You can imagine how cruel and fierce the competition is. When the Outer Sect Ranking List was suspended in the air, the martial arts training ground made a boom sound, and then the ground shook, and a ring rose from the ground and appeared in everyone's sight. This is the ring where the Outer Sect Ranking War needs to be carried out. The method of the Outer Sect Ranking War is very simple, that is, 2 people go on the stage, one-on-one duel. You can win by knocking the opponent out of the ring, or knocking the opponent unconscious, losing combat power, or letting the opponent voluntarily admit defeat. After winning, your ranking will be accumulated by 1 place. Of course, if you have a ranking before, then your ranking will be replaced. However, this is limited to the top 100 on the Outer Sect Ranking List. For example, if you have no ranking at the beginning, then the opponent also has no ranking, so if you defeat the opponent, you can get a promotion ranking. If you defeat 100 disciples, then you can get 100 promotion rankings. However, if you can defeat an Outer Sect disciple ranked 100th from the beginning, then you can replace him and become the 100th. Therefore, the 100 disciples on the ranking list are actually hot cakes, and everyone wants to have a bite. More importantly, the disciples on this ranking list cannot challenge the disciples with lower rankings, but can only challenge the disciples with higher rankings. This means that the competition for the last place on each ranking list is very fierce. It can be said that the rankings of several rounds can be changed almost within a few minutes. After all, the Outer Sect disciples ranked in the top 30 are basically Outer Sect geniuses with strong strength, and few people can shake them. When the rules are explained clearly, the Outer Sect ranking battle officially begins. So, there are Outer Sect disciples who can't wait to play. For a while, there were disciples coming and going, fiercely fighting. Sometimes this disciple was defeated, and another disciple would take his place. Another rule of the Outer Sect ranking battle is that you only have 3 chances to fail. Once you lose 3 battles, your ranking is fixed. Then at that time, if someone replaces your rank, you have no way to save it, and you can only watch your rank being taken away by others. However, for the disciples who are not on the list, these are all irrelevant. They are fighting to see if they can squeeze into the top 100 rankings. After all, the top 100 rankings all have rewards. although it is not as good as the top 10 rewards, it is very generous for them, especially from those civilians, because these outer sect disciples can usually get very few cultivation resources. If they want to get more cultivation resources, they can only rely on fighting for a way out in the outer sect ranking battle. This is why the outer sect ranking battle is so fierce. After a while, many outer disciples had used up their 3 chances, and they could only stand there in frustration. Bai Fei did not act quickly because he was not in a hurry. The opponent he chose must be ranked within the top 50, he did not have so much time to waste on other people. The other outer disciples thought the same. After all, they were the real highlight. After a while, the number of disciples who could challenge on the stage began to decrease, and the rankings of the disciples who could stay on the stage were getting higher and higher. Seeing this, Bai Fei knew that it was almost time, so, he looked around and his eyes fell on one of the stages. "It's you." At that moment, Bai Fei moved his feet, his body flew into the air, and landed on the ring. Then he looked at the disciple on the ring and said lightly, "This senior brother, please teach me." The outer disciple on the ring was a red-haired young man, who ranked 28 and had the 8th level of the Gathering Spirit Realm. When the red-haired young man saw Bai Fei appear on his ring, a look of horror appeared on his face. Bai Fei, the red-haired young man could never have imagined that Bai Fei would choose to challenge him. Chapter 67, Huang Dieyi. You are listening at novelfull.audio. This made the red-haired young man really want to scold his mother. He finally squeezed into this position, but in the end, this evil star actually took a fancy to his ranking. How unlucky it was. The red-haired young man knew very well that he was no match for Bai Fei. After all, Bai Fei is a being who can directly defeat Zhou Yulin. He still knows very well how many pounds he has, but in his heart, he was unwilling to give up this ranking. At that moment, the red-haired young man looked at Bai Fei and said, "Bai Fei, I don't think we need to fight to the death, don't you think so? And the name 28 is really too low for you. I think it's good for you to go to that arena." The owner of that arena is ranked 15th. The reward for the 15th place is much richer than the reward for me, the 28th place. So I suggest you go to that side is the best. What do you think? The disciple in the next ring is ranked 15th, hearing the words of the red-haired young man, he cursed angrily, "Damn. Wang Tianfang, are you farting, right? Don't believe him, he is very powerful." Bai Fei, I think you are looking for the right person. This guy is despicable, cunning. If you defeat him, you will definitely win the favor of many people. If you still feel dissatisfied, come to me when the time comes and I will give up my ranking. Wang Tianfang has been knocked down, I will give my place to you without a second thought. Damn. Lu Dafu, are you plotting something? When the red-haired young man heard this, his face was full of anger. He wanted to divert trouble to the east, but he didn't expect that the other party would actually come up with such a move to drain the fire from the bottom of the cauldron, which made him extremely angry. Bai Fei also didn't expect that such a scene could happen to an opponent he randomly selected. It was really interesting. However, since Bai Fei is already standing on this ring, he has no intention of going down. Therefore, Bai Fei raised his palm slightly and said to Wang Tianfang, "Senior brother Wang Tianfang, right? Please enlighten me." When Wang Tianfang saw that Bai Fei was serious, his eyes suddenly changed, and he said in a cold voice, "Bai Fei, do you really want to fight me?" Bai Fei smiled and said nothing, his meaning was obvious. "Okay. Since you want to be beaten so much, then I will grant it to you." At this moment, Wang Tianzhao burst out with an extremely terrifying momentum, and shouted angrily, "Bai Fei, you asked for this, you can't help me." Bai Fei was a little surprised when he saw this, and he was even more curious about what methods he planned to use to deal with him. The next second, Wang Tianfang roared angrily, Wang Tianfang, admit defeat." Bai Fei froze on the spot and didn't even react. At this time, Wang Tianfang had already turned around and ran off the ring. Are you kidding me? Let him fight, Bai Fei. Isn't this Chun being beaten? I won't do it. Lu Dafu, you bastard, I'm here to find you. Fuck. Wang Tianfang, get out of here. I won't fight you. However, Wang Tianfang had already rushed into Lu Dafu's ring and fought with him. When Bai Fei saw this, he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He really didn't expect that he would win without a fight. It's really interesting. Bai Fei looked at Wang Tianfang and Lu Dafu, who were fighting fiercely in another arena, and smiled without saying anything more. So, Bai Fei won without a fight and became the 28th. However, no one had any objections. After all, they all know very well how terrifying Bai Fei's strength is. But, is Bai Fei really satisfied with this ranking? In other words, don't others have any thoughts about Bai Fei? You must know that the top 30 outer disciples are not restricted by their rankings and can freely challenge. At this moment, a gust of fragrant wind suddenly penetrated into Bai Fei's nose. Bai Fei smelled the fragrance and looked around. The next second, there was already a figure standing in front of him. It was a woman with long golden hair, her delicate facial features were flawless, and she was as beautiful as a porcelain doll. The light yellow dress perfectly outlined her figure. Standing there, she exuded an otherworldly aura. Seeing her appearance, Bai Fei murmured. Huang Dieyi. Huang Dieyi is one of the top 10 geniuses in the outer sect. To be precise, she is ranked 3rd. Her cultivation level is extremely powerful, and it is said that she has already practiced the blood sword 10,000 secrets to the 4th level and is moving towards the 5th level. Moreover, she is pregnant with the Xianling golden butterfly, of Xianpin bloodline. This is the true beauty of heaven. However, what Bai Fei never expected was that Huang Dieyi would actually find him. This was really an incredible thing. At this moment, Huang Dieyi bowed his hands and said in a calm tone, "The 3rd outer sect, Huang Dieyi, challenges junior brother Bai Fei." Hearing Huang Dieyi's words, Bai Fei couldn't help but laugh and said, "Senior sister Dieyi, after all, you are also the 3rd in the outer sect. How can you have the nerve to bully me, a little junior brother in the body refining realm? This is not good, okay? A person in the body refining realm can kill Zhou Yulin. This is not something that just anyone can do." When Huang Dieyi heard this, his expression remained unchanged and he replied in a calm tone. "Senior sister Dieyi, can I ask why you want to challenge me?" Bai Fei asked. "Revenge." Huang Dieyi simply said 2 words. "Revenge?" Bai Fei was startled when he heard this. He never expected that Huang Dieyi's answer would be this. At that moment, Bai Fei frowned slightly and said, "Senior sister Dieyi, I remember that there seems to be no grudge between us. How can we talk about revenge? You killed Zhou Yulin." Huang Dieyi gave another reason. When Bai Fei heard this, his eyes suddenly darkened. "Are you here for Zhou Yulin?" "Not really." Huang Dieyi shook his head and said softly, "Do you know how I got the rank of number 3 in the outer sect?" Bai Fei was puzzled. "I came up in order." Huang Dieyi explained calmly, "Originally, I was indeed the 3rd in the outer sect, but not long ago, Zhou Yulin challenged me and I lost to him, so I became the 4th in the outer sect. Of course I was unwilling to give in and wanted to take his position back, so I went back to retreat and worked hard to make Zhou Yulin look good." Chapter 68, Sword Chi Storm. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Guess what? When I came out of prison and wanted to seek revenge on Zhou Yulin, I was told that Zhou Yulin had been killed. And the person who killed him was you, Bai Fei. At this point, Huang Dieyi's tone became even colder, and then he said coldly, "It's also because of this that I changed from 4th to 3rd. But this is very uncomfortable for me. What I want is to defeat Zhou Yulin in an honest and fair manner and take back the position that belongs to me, not to be promoted like this. I won't take advantage of this. But since you killed Zhou Yulin, it proves that you are capable, so I challenge you. If I beat you, I will be the real 3rd. So, junior brother Bai Fei, please fulfill me." Hearing Huang Dieyi's explanation, Bai Fei also felt very speechless. He really didn't expect that things would be like this. It's really so bloody. However, seeing Huang Dieyi's serious look, Bai Fei knew very well that even if he rejected her now, I'm afraid she would still pester him relentlessly in the future. In order to avoid causing more trouble to himself in the future, Bai Fei thought it would be better to help others. At that moment, Bai Fei said to Huang Dieyi, "Since senior sister Dieyi has already said so, if I refuse again, wouldn't it appear that I am too heartless? I also really want to see what senior sister Dieyi is capable of. Please enlighten me. After hearing Bai Fei's words, Huang Dieyi's eyes narrowed slightly and he said softly, "Thank you very much." Boom! As Huang Dieyi finished speaking, an extremely terrifying aura erupted from her body. The next second, Huang Dieyi's jade hand suddenly grasped it, and the spiritual sword in his hand was already shining with blood-colored light, driving his delicate body and shooting away. Huang Dieyi's attack was extremely fast, and he was in front of Bai Fei in a blink of an eye, and all the sword energy shot out, covering Bai Fei. It has to be said that Huang Dieyi is worthy of being the third most favored man in the outer sect. This offensive is extremely sharp and airtight, making it difficult for Bai Fei to escape in the first place. If Bai Fei's body wasn't strong enough, he might have been seriously injured by Huang Dieyi's attack. Seeing Bai Fei retreating repeatedly, only occasionally using his own body to challenge his offensive, with no intention of taking action, Huang Dieyi frowned slightly, and a look of displeasure appeared on his delicate and beautiful face. He said in a cold voice, "Junior brother Bai Fei, do you want to let go? Do you think I would be happy with such a victory? Please take this competition seriously." Hearing Huang Dieyi's words, Bai Fei smiled faintly and said, "Senior sister Dieyi, if you want to fight, you will naturally go all out. How do you know that I am letting you off the hook?" Huang Dieyi was slightly startled when he heard this. The next second, Bai Fei's eyes suddenly turned cold, and then he clenched his palms suddenly, and punched in one direction with surging spiritual energy. Bang! A powerful wave of spiritual energy burst out and spread around. The sword energy that enveloped the surroundings was shattered in an instant, and a strong wind spread out, covering Huang Dieyi's delicate body. He took a few steps back. This made Huang Dieyi's pupils suddenly shrink, and for the first time a look of surprise appeared on her delicate and beautiful face that had always maintained an indifferent look. How did he do that? Huang Dieyi had no idea that Bai Fei could break through his sword energy storm. This is a martial art that she has created after studying for a long time. I don't know how many people have been defeated by her sword energy storm, but Bai Fei actually broke through it. Is it a coincidence? Huang Dieyi thought secretly in his heart, thinking that Bai Fei must have happened by chance. Therefore, without any further hesitation, she continued to activate her spiritual energy, swung her long sword, and slashed out sword energy, forming a sword energy storm again, shrouding Bai Fei in it. When Bai Fei saw this, a look of helplessness appeared in his eyes, and he thought to himself, "Don't she know that I have noticed the flaw in her attack?" When he was thinking this, Bai Fei raised his hand again, clenched his fist suddenly, and then struck hard in one direction. Bang! The sword energy storm was blown away again, and then a strong wind swept out again, hitting Huang Dieyi's delicate body hard, forcing Huang Dieyi to retreat continuously. How can it be? Seeing that his sword energy storm was once again defeated by Bai Fei, Huang Dieyi's eyes opened a little wide, his face was full of shock, and he said in a shocked voice, "How did you do it? If it was an accident once, then it is not an accident the second time." Obviously, Bai Fei saw through the flaw in his sword energy storm, so he was able to break through it so easily. When Bai Fei heard Huang Dieyi's words, he just smiled faintly and said, "Senior sister Dieyi, I just said that I am not showing off, but I am competing with you very seriously." Indeed, the reason why Bai Fei chose not to attack immediately was because he was using his soul power to sense the sword energy storm that Huang Dieyi had used. He could feel the power of this sword energy storm. Although its power was not very terrible, it could keep the attack continuous, which could be said to be continuous. In this way, people who were trapped in the sword energy storm would be subjected to endless sword energy attacks. Even if the power of the sword energy was not strong enough, the enemies in the sword energy storm could be consumed. It was a pity that the sword energy storm seemed perfect, but in fact, there was a set of operating rules. And in this set of operating rules, there were flaws. Bai Fei used the power of his soul to detect this flaw, and then smashed the sword energy storm with a punch. Hearing Bai Fei's words, Huang Dieyi also raised her eyebrows and said softly, "That's great." Bai Fei did not let Huang Dieyi go, which was the best thing for Huang Dieyi, because she needed to test her own strength. At that moment, Huang Dieyi raised the long sword in her hand again and began to swing it. At that moment, a surge of energy spread out from her body, and the blood-colored aura bloomed even more dazzlingly, forming a strong wind that gently blew up her clothes. Chapter 69, Spiritual Blood Sword. You are listening at novelfull.audio. At this moment, the aura of Huang Dieyi has changed. If Huang Dieyi was a cold goddess before, she is now a gloomy witch, because the aura emanating from Huang Dieyi has become extremely fierce. Obviously, Huang Dieyi is going to use more powerful skills to deal with Bai Fei. Seeing this, Bai Fei's handsome face did not show any fluctuations, and he remained calm, but in his eyes, a solemn look emerged. Although Bai Fei did break Huang Dieyi's sword energy storm just now, if you think that Huang Dieyi only has these skills, you are wrong. How could a genius who can rank third in the outer sect only have this ability? What's more, Huang Dieyi had retreated again before, and it is possible that he has practiced some powerful unique skills. Blood Sword 10,000 Secrets. A low shout sounded from Huang Dieyi's mouth, and then a finger-sized blood-colored flying sword flew out from her lips, and then gradually expanded. Then, the blood-colored flying sword wrapped the long sword in Huang Dieyi's hand. The two combined together, bursting out an extremely terrifying energy aura, and then gradually expanded in the void, but in the blink of an eye, a blood-colored sword column more than 5 meters long appeared in the void, exuding a sharp and fierce aura. At this moment, countless people were surprised. This is the third level of the Blood Sword 10,000 Secrets, the spiritual energy condensed sword. Yes. And the blood sword condensed by Huang Dieyi is very solid, and it seems to have been nurtured for a long time. As expected of Huang Dieyi, her understanding of the Blood Sword 10,000 Secrets has indeed reached a very high level. Not only were the disciples shocked, but the outer sect leaders on the high platform were also sighing. The true power of the Blood Sword 10,000 techniques can only be revealed after it is cultivated to the third level. Because only at the third level can the spirit energy condense into a sword. As the name suggests, the spirit energy condensed sword is based on the Blood Sword 10,000 techniques, and then with the help of one's own spirit energy, an energy spirit sword is nurtured for oneself. This energy spirit sword can be used as a means of attack or as a magic weapon. However, its power depends on the time you have nurtured it and your understanding of the Blood Sword 10,000 techniques. The deeper your understanding of the Blood Sword 10,000 techniques, the more solid the spirit blood sword condensed will be, and the stronger its power will be. The spirit blood sword nurtured by Huang Dieyi, combined with his own spirit sword, has a power that even a warrior at the 11th level of the gathering spirit realm may not be able to contend with. It can be seen that Huang Dieyi really regarded Bai Fei as an opponent of equal status, and did not consider that Bai Fei is now just a warrior in the body-refining realm. Seeing the blood-colored sword pillar emerging in the sky, Bai Fei couldn't help but chuckle. "Senior Sister Dieyi, you really think highly of me." Hearing Bai Fei's words, Huang Dieyi said expressionlessly, "Going all out is the greatest respect for the opponent." Bai Fei smiled faintly. "You are right, going all out is the greatest respect for the opponent. Brother Bai Fei, take it." Huang Dieyi said in a cold tone, and formed seals with both hands. The blood-colored sword pillar in the sky immediately shot out and bombarded Bai Fei. Bai Fei just smiled faintly, without any panic, just standing there, motionless, like a wooden stake. This made many disciples present look puzzled after seeing it. Why is Bai Fei not moving? Is he scared silly by Senior Sister Dieyi's attack? I think it's possible. It shouldn't be, he was so ferocious when he fought with Zhou Yulin. Who is Zhou Yulin, and who is Senior Sister Dieyi? Can the two of them be compared? That's true. It seems that Bai Fei is destined to lose. Looking at this situation, there's no escape. As for Huang Dieyi, she was also confused when she saw Bai Fei like this. She didn't think Bai Fei would just watch her attack fall on him. If so, what's the difference between that and letting him go? Bai Fei should be very clear in his heart that if he let him go, he would never let him go, and would definitely continue to ask him for advice. If that's the case, it will be endless. Does Bai Fei really want such an ending? Huang Dieyi doesn't think Bai Fei is such a person, so he must be planning some means. I just don't know what this means is. Boom! At this moment, a muffled groan sounded in the sky. Then, the earth shook, and countless dust and smoke swept out, directly covering Bai Fei's body. After seeing this, countless people present felt extremely sorry. It's really a pity. I thought there would be a dark horse. But being defeated by senior sister Dieyi is also very powerful. Indeed, however, for Huang it felt very wrong, because she clearly sensed that her spiritual blood sword had hit something, and that thing was extremely solid, and it completely blocked the power of the spiritual blood sword. So she felt that Bai Fei must not have been defeated by her spiritual blood sword. After waiting for a while, the dust and smoke dissipated. Immediately, a huge monster suddenly appeared. No. Not one, but two. Above the sky, the blood-colored sword pillar that fell down was just blocked by another blood-colored sword pillar. The volume of that blood-colored sword pillar was a circle smaller than the previous one, but it was more solid as a whole. It was like a real blood sword. Seeing this scene, Huang Jie's pupils shrank slightly, and shocking emotions surged in her heart. This scene also made countless people present scream. Spiritual blood sword. This Bai Fei actually condensed a spiritual blood sword. And looking at his spiritual blood sword, it seems to be more solid than Sister Jie's. How is this possible? Is it fake? For a moment, countless disciples were very confused. They were unwilling to believe such a fact. As for the high-ranking officials on the high platform, they were all extremely surprised. With their profound cultivation, they could see clearly that although Bai Fei's spiritual blood sword was much smaller than Huang Jie's, it was just as those disciples had guessed. Bai Fei's spiritual blood sword was more condensed. Chapter 70 Mysterious Golden Butterfly. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After the disciples of the Blood Sword sect practiced the Blood Sword 10,000 techniques to the third level, they could condense the Blood Sword with spiritual energy. After the Blood Sword is condensed, it can be nourished with spiritual energy. The longer the nourishment time, the more solid the Blood Sword will be, and the greater the power it will burst out. Huang Jie has been an outer disciple of the Blood Sword sect for more than 3 years, so it is not surprising that she can nourish such a solid spiritual blood sword. On the other hand, how long has Bai Fei been an outer disciple of the Blood Sword sect? Not only did he practice the Blood Sword 10,000 techniques to the third level, but he also nourished the Blood Sword, and even the Blood Sword he nourished was more solid than Huang Jie's. This is really incredible. In addition to taking a lot of time to nourish the Blood Sword, there are naturally other ways. It's just that other methods are very resource-consuming, and under normal circumstances, no one would do this. After all, if you have that kind of resources to nourish the Blood Sword, you might as well use it on yourself to improve your cultivation. What was the result? Bai Fei's Blood Sword is so solid that it is incredible. Bang! 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 The two blood swords crisscrossed in the void and continued to collide. The energy fluctuations that burst out were extremely powerful and continued to spread out, causing every inch of the void to emit a roar. It has to be said that this was really surprising to everyone present. Even many high-level people on the high platform were surprised. Who is this guy? He actually has such strength? Not simple, he is only the 9th level of the body refining realm, but he can actually practice Blood Sword 10,000 formulas to such a level. He is a plastic talent. I don't know if he has a master. Maybe he can be accepted as a disciple. Many outer sect elders have become interested in Bai Fei and want to accept him as a disciple. Hearing the words of these outer sect elders, Deputy Sect Leader Wan Zhongjie smiled slightly and said, "If you want to accept him as a disciple, then I suggest you don't think about it. Because he has already become a disciple of Elder Meng." Elder Meng? Which Elder Meng? That Wan Zhongjie's words confused many outer sect elders. The last time Bai Fei passed the 9 levels and rang the bell, it mainly attracted many inner sect elders to come. As for the outer sect elders, they are not qualified to accept disciples, because they all know very well in their hearts that such a proud child of heaven will definitely be scrambled by the high level of the inner sect. Of course, there are also many outer sect elders who know about Bai Fei's situation, but their understanding of him is only at the level of his name. Of course, it is Elder Meng Yueheng. Wan Zhongjie smiled faintly and said this. Elder Meng Yueheng. Could it be that this guy is Bai Fei? Bai Fei who passed the 9 levels. It's him. Many outer sect elders also reacted. If it was Meng Yueheng's disciple, it would be different. After all, that was Meng Yueheng. However, even if it was Meng Yueheng's disciple, it would not be easy to completely defeat Huang Dieyi. Indeed, Huang Dieyi has been occupying the top 3 of the outer sect rankings in the past few years in the outer sect, and has never fallen out. He must have a lot of trump cards. Very interesting, let's continue to wait and see. Boom. 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 The violent energy fluctuations are still spreading on the ring, generating strong winds that spread around. The two spiritual blood swords continue to collide, which is extremely terrifying. A solemn look appeared on Huang Dieyi's exquisite face. She really didn't expect that Bai Fei not only cultivated the blood sword 10,000 secrets to the 3rd level, but even the blood sword he cultivated was more solid and powerful than hers. You know, Bai Fei has only been an outer disciple for more than half a month. Moreover, he is only in the body refining realm now. What about me? It has been several years since I became an outer disciple, and my cultivation has reached the 10th level of the gathering spirit realm. But in this state, there is still no way to suppress Bai Fei. If this gets out, it will really make countless people laugh. Of course, although that's what he said, Bai Fei is not an ordinary disciple after all, but a genius who has passed the 9 levels. So, it is actually normal for him to have such strength. But, I have a reason not to lose. I can't just lose to you like this. A firm look flashed across Huang Dieyi's beautiful eyes, and she thought secretly in her heart, she still has many trump cards that she hasn't used, and it's impossible for her to fall here like this. At that moment, Huang Dieyi shouted softly. Bloodline power. Boom. At this moment, Huang Dieyi burst out with an extremely powerful aura. The next second, a crisp chirping sound resounded from Huang Dieyi's body. Then, a golden butterfly's phantom appeared in the void behind Huang Dieyi. Then, a pair of golden wings spread out behind Huang Dieyi. Huang Dieyi's heart moved, the golden wings vibrated, and her body flew into the air. Huang Dieyi's hands quickly formed seals, and then a burst of golden energy burst out from her body and poured into the blood sword. The blood sword was infused with this golden energy, and golden lines immediately bloomed on the surface, outlining butterfly patterns, and then burst out with an extremely terrifying energy aura, which burst out again. Boom. The blood gold sword column burst out and hit Bai Fei's blood sword directly, causing Bai Fei's blood sword to tremble violently, and a crackling sound was heard on the surface, and cracks appeared. After being blessed by Huang Dieyi's Xianling Jindai bloodline, the power burst out of her blood sword was extremely terrifying, and Bai Fei's blood sword could not contend with it at all. After all, the main function of the Xianling Jindai bloodline is actually to strengthen strength. It has to be said that this is also very unexpected for Bai Fei. If it really is like this, Bai Fei really has no way to contend with it. At that moment, Bai Fei quickly retracted his blood sword, and then took a step forward, and a deep voice sounded in his throat. Soul-breaking light slash. Boom. The rolling soul power swept out of Bai Fei's body, forming a soul light blade. Under Bai Fei's control, the soul light blade broke through the air and hit the blood gold sword pillar in the air.